Today I'm drawing this sketch in Tayasui Sketches. Hi guys, Steve Elliott here again. Today I'm working in Tayasui Sketches and I'm doing a value study really. I've done quite a few pencil drawings with watercolours in, and I thought I would do something a little bit different. So you can see that I have a photo of a building, and I wanted to really concentrate on the proportions of this sketch. So I'm taking my time, measuring everything out and making sure I've got everything in the right place, everything's in relationship to each other. So you can see I sort of looked at the building and thought, okay, that just goes slightly past halfway across the page, and this roof line goes in with a bigger gap to the right hand side than the left, and I'm adjusting things with the eraser as I'm going. All the while I'm looking at perspective, and I'm really concentrating on the proportions of everything. So I'm doing an outline sketch really, which is something I don't normally do, but I felt that in this case it is worthwhile. So it's kind of, I'm covering two things with this sketch. One is sketching accurately and concentrating on proportions and making sure I get everything in the right place. And once I've done that, I concentrate on values and shadows and trying to get them in the right place. So you can see I've already started sort of sketching roughly where I want some shadow work on the building, and it really is quite precise for me. I very rarely do I sketch this way, so I thought I'd try this because I felt like every sketch I do in Tayasui is sort of coming out the same, and I wanted to mix it up a bit. So and I've never really done a sketch like this as a video, I don't think. I think maybe the very first one I did in paper 53 was like this, but I can't think of many others. So as you can see, I'm still measuring very carefully that window begins slightly above the one to the right and it finishes just a tad lower, and the concentrating on the positioning of the door, and it's the sort of same width as the window. I then moved the edge of the paper. I sketched in the paper first to match the photo, just to give me an idea of the proportions. I thought that would help. So I've gone from sort of the bigger picture to the small. So what I mean by that is I sort of begin sketching in the roof and then the walls, and then putting the elements in, and then breaking down the windows. So now I'm starting to shade, and the way I've done this, I'm using the pencil, but I'm tipping the tilting the pencil slightly to get the, as you imagine tilting a pencil and the pencil lead grazing over the paper, shading it in. Well, that's exactly what I've done here. And I have to say, with Tayasui, you get these sound effects when you're drawing of the pencil scraping over the paper, and that along with the tilt on the pencil really was very close to painting on paper. The only thing that really made me realize that I wasn't drawing on paper was the fact that I was drawing on glass. So you can't get away from that sort of slipperiness of the glass. But the actual sound effects I think are awesome, and that tilt. So I've never ever sketched using the tilt on the pencil, certainly not on a video, and it really does give it a very natural looking pencil sketch. Now I'm really liking looking at this sketch that I've got this whiteness of the building where it could have been caught by the sun, but I'm just wondering, I could have almost left it like that, but I wanted to get some of the detail in there as well. So I'm using that shaded pencil just to, I made the pencil brush size a little bit bigger there to very quickly get in that water and just sort of speed up the process a little bit. And I was looking at the windows, so now I'm looking at the sort of darker shadows and starting to put those in. So it's beginning to take form and have a little bit of depth about it. I mean, the shape's there, but I wanted to make it look as though the windows are recessed and the doors recessed and there's shadows cast across them. I'd forgotten completely about that ridge to that roof, to putting that in. So I sketched that in. The perspective's slightly wrong there. I've got it sort of almost horizontal, and it needs to be going from the ridge to the back to the roof, just angled down slightly. So I'm now putting in the downpipes and concentrating on using that side of the pencil again, just to give the indication of the stonework that this building is built on. So lots and lots of work with the edge of the pencil. Now I'm sketching in the windows, and the way I did that, I knew there was 3 deep and 3 wide, so I sketched the one in the middle first to make sure, or the middle at the top, to make sure that I've got that one in the right place, and it was easy to put the other 2 in. If you start at the left hand side, you'll probably end up with one of the windows being a little bit the window panes, I should say, being a little bit narrower than the rest. So I've still got plenty of tone depth to be able to go at yet. It's still quite light sketch. You notice there I used the eraser to just sort of take out the barge boards on the end of the fascia. And I have to say, the erasers doing this kind of sketch are quite disappointing, really, because you've either got this really hard-edged eraser, and the soft-edged one, you can't get it small enough to sort of take out tiny bits of detail. So I found that I was having to use the hard edge eraser, and it's quite brutal. It just takes everything out, and then softly using the pencil to fill that back in again. Somehow there, it changed the colour, and I don't know what happened, what I touched, but got the colour mixed up. So now the railings are going in, and notice I'm going to use sort of put dark railings in first. Then when it gets to the darker shadows in the bush, I change those railings to a light. So I use the eraser to lift them out. I thought I'd get that dark in first before I start putting in the lighter railings. So just put a little bit of shadow under the brickwork of the stone wall, the retaining wall. Just trying to get a bit of an edge on that downpipe, and adding more shadows to give the impression that there is a barge board fixed to the end of that gable end there. Here we go. So going even darker. I just love this pencil, the way you can just sort of put it on its side, and it just felt so real, like I was using a real pencil. Now I'm putting in the railings. See what I mean? It's sort of counter change where I'm putting light against dark all the time. I do that a lot, and it really can transform a sketch. Even if you look at the photo, the railings don't particularly look lighter in the dark area, but I felt that that really would make a difference. So flicking in a few branches within that shaded area for the trees, just so that you can see that they are trees. And now I'm going into that stonework, and I'm not going to put every single stone in right the way across. That would look really, really bad. You'd be able to sort of cut the painting in off at that point. Flicking in a few little reeds there. It's all about the tonal values and the shadows in this one. Just using that same pencil, and I'm used the second smallest one, and then I created a new layer to put this bird in. I felt I could crash and burn drastically if I'm not careful. So I created a new layer just to put that outline of the bird. Then I went back to the original layer, erased the pencil work underneath it, then switched off the layer that I'd drawn the outline of the pencil, and then I started working. Once I was up, I knew it was in the right place and everything. I started working on that on the original layer again. And it took me quite a while to get something that I thought was right. In fact, this is the only point I actually zoomed in to the picture, because usually when I'm working in Tayasui, I don't zoom in much because, you know, if you had a piece of paper, you couldn't zoom in. You wouldn't be able to. The only way you could see it more detail would be to get a magnifying glass out or something. So that's why I don't, when I'm doing this kind of sketch, I don't zoom in at all. If I'm doing a painting, obviously that's different because it is scaled. I might want to print it out at 20 inch by 36, so therefore I need to zoom in to see it at actual size. But this, when I was drawing it, was the actual size, so no point at all in drawing that in. Then I used the eraser just to lift out some of the reflections in the water. That, to me, that really does now look like water. Very happy with that, to be honest. And now I'm just sort of going in with that pencil. I'm using the tip of the pencil now just to add final little bits of detail. I'm working on the ridge of that small gable, putting in a few more shadows, darkening off that extension at the side of the building. That was all a little bit bright and was sort of, it should have been, it wasn't a focal point, so that needed knocking back a little bit. Just sharpening up edges, trying to draw the gables in, sign it there, so I'm getting very close to being happy with this. Then what I thought I'd do, I'd put just one tonal wash on the sketch area to make it look like I'd drawn it on a cream kind of paper, or make it look a little bit like a sepia print. So that is it. That is my tonal sketch in Tayasui Sketches. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, a big thumbs up as always would be much appreciated. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to tick the bell so you get notifications of any new videos I'm putting out there or live streams. And hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Bye!